going to try and really push hard to make these next 6-7 months Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Just Another Struggling Writer, the beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. First of all, pay no attention to the mess behind me. I haven't totally gotten my filming space cleaned up yet from my hiatus, but it is on my list of things to do this week. Today, what I would like to do is sit down and think about the second half of 2026 and what I would like to do writing-wise. As we all know by now, as I have talked about ad nauseum for the last week, I have been on an extended hiatus since February just because of a lot of circumstances, which unfortunately meant that writing has been on the back burner for quite a while. As such, none of my writing plans have really panned out. But I'm officially back on the wagon and looking forward to what the second half of 2026 might bring, and hopefully going to try and really push hard to make these next 6-7 months. That was not on purpose. The last half of 2026 a productive one. So with that in mind, I am going to kind of make a little schedule for myself. Today, which is June 7th. I've been on vacation all week, so I've completely lost track of time. Today is June 7th, so starting tomorrow, June 8th, ideally all the way through the end of this year. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be super detailed the longer I go, but I do have some ideas of how I want to spend the next couple of months. And I'm going to be utilizing a checklist system like Meredith puts to great effect on her channel. I am someone who does prefer physical media in terms of like my planning. So while I do use Notion for a lot of things, it does make it more accessible. I do have a physical planner that I use, and I also decided that I would do a physical checklist. There is something just really satisfying about writing it all out. It just makes it feel really concrete and really solid in my mind. And also, like, checking the box just doesn't hit the same when you're just clicking on a computer. I don't know what it is. That's just how my brain works. So my kids got me this very pretty little notebook for Mother's Day last month, and I haven't used it, and I wasn't really sure what to use it for since it is a little bit thin, and I figured, actually, you know what, this might be the perfect way to put this to good use and also satisfy that itch in my brain that desires physical media for this kind of thing. So let's just dive right in and talk about what my plans are for the next couple of months. So first things first, obviously the biggest goal I have and the thing I really need to focus on is finishing the third draft of Seekers of Empyrean, which is my modern world urban fantasy about a young woman with a rare magical ability who is recruited by a secret government agency to hunt down a dangerous fugitive in exchange for help solving her mother's mysterious disappearance. I am about 15,000 words in, and I have a deadline of August 1st. Technically, July 31st, I have to hand it in to Brielle August 1st for a manuscript critique, which means I have, let's see, according to Google, 55 days exactly to finish what I am hoping will be a between 90 and 100,000 word manuscript. Now, like I said, I am 15,000 words in, and I am keeping all of those 15,000 words. I'm just rewriting like the last paragraph that I left off on, which was only about 100 words. Obviously, the vast majority of those 15,000 words are staying. Now, I don't think I want to be still writing on the last day of my deadline. I think I would like to have some time wherein I am able to kind of do a quick read through before I send it off, and I'm able to do like a very quick edit pass before I hand it off for an official paid critique. I definitely don't want to be like, when I was writing semi-professionally for Scribd, it was like that. It would be like 10:30 the night my manuscript was due at midnight, and I would be like finishing it. And while the pressure did help me complete some things that I may not have done otherwise, I don't think that that's what I want to be doing for something that is this important to me. So I would like maybe like a week to kind of read through it and really feel good about it before I send it off. I don't want to be scrambling, trying to squeeze in the last couple of chapters in those last couple of days. Also, during this period, I have a trip out of town. My daughter made all-state choir, and we will be attending that, which is very exciting. And it's a couple of days in the middle of July. Let's see, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So those are days I do not anticipate writing. When we went to the Denver trip a couple years ago, I planned to get a bunch of work done, and it just didn't pan out. I didn't even get a lot of reading done. I would like to use that time as a little bit of a break. And again, it's only 3 days. And I took the Wednesday before we leave off, and then obviously I'll have Sunday as well. I think we are staying overnight Saturday, and then we're driving back on Sunday. So let's call it 4 days. Let's call it 3 days, because that plus the week I want to take to do the review at the end would make it 10 days, and that just works better for my brain. If we call that 10 whole days, that gives me 45 days to finish this manuscript. Which then means if I'm being really, really conservative and saying I'm going to go to about 100,000, it equals out to about 2,000 words a day. Not impossible, but it will definitely test me, especially since I fear that on Friday I got even more bad news about my job. That being said, I really don't feel like I'm able to move this deadline with Brielle again. And so I really need to dig deep and find out how important it is to me through this process. 2,000 words a day for 45 days with a little break there. Never mind the fact that I'll be traveling with my chaos child, but a break nonetheless. So that's step 1, finishing Seekers of Empyrean Draft 3 by August 1st with a goal of 2,000 words a day for 45 days out of the next 55 days. Let's turn this into a checklist a la Meredith E. Phillips. Okay, I am done setting up the checklist. First of all, I'd just like to say, ow, holy hell, Meredith, you do this on regular occasions? Anyway, so got the checklist. It's on these 3 pages. I've got the date, including the day of the week, because that is actually going to be pretty indicative of what days are successful and which are not. And then I've also put a place to put the final word count so I can kind of keep track of when I go over, because it occurred to me as I was writing this out that trip I'm taking to San Antonio in July, I'm driving back on Sunday, and then I have to get ready for work because I'm going right back to work on Monday. So that might be a tough sell to ask me to sit down and write 2,000 words after driving all day and then having to come home and do laundry and stuff. And anyway, so if I could get out a little bit ahead at any point, that would be super helpful. So, and then on the last page, I've also got a place to write down the final word count that I got during the challenge, and then what the final word count of the project is, which I don't really need to put in the notebook because it's going to be in the document. Whatever, that will be the rest of June and the vast majority of July. And God, I hope that I can actually get it done before July 31st. Then on August 1st, I will be shipping off to Brielle and hopefully some other beta readers. If you are interested in being a critique partner or beta reader for this project, please let me know. I am now in the process of actively seeking them. So if you're interested in urban fantasy, or if you just want to help a girl out, hit me up. I would really appreciate it. Like I said, I do anticipate it being done around August 1st and it to be between 90 and 100,000 words. Then the question becomes, what next? While Seekers is off with beta readers, I am aiming to be working on another project. I have already picked out the project. I have had it in mind for a while, and that is going to be the project that I anticipate working on for the rest of the year. Because even though I don't think that my critique partners and beta readers will need 4 months with Seekers, I am looking to take an extended break. Partially because apart from my mental health breaks over the last 2 years, I have been working on this one singular project pretty much straight through without taking time to really think about anything else. And I have wondered over the last couple of weeks and months if that is really starting to affect how I approach the project that is Seekers. When I have finished drafts in the past, I have been really, really excited to improve them and get right into edits. And again, I'm just not sure that that is helpful. I think it's contributing to the burnout and contributing to some of the feelings I was having over this last break that I took, where I was like really questioning my commitment to the project and really wondering if it was time to like set it aside and work on something else. So by scheduling in time to work on something else, I think that'll really help me first get some much needed distance, which again, I also believe has contributed to the kind of blinders I've had in terms of my struggles with the plot. And so taking a concentrated break from it and working on something completely new will, I hope, help me get some perspective. Like I said, I already picked the project. It is a sapphic adventure story set in a post-apocalyptic land where a magical plague has pretty much decimated this kingdom. And these two former friends who knew each other as children have to come back together as adults and figure out a cure for this magical plague. The working title is Daughters of Necessity, and I had written about 20,000 words of a first draft many moons ago. It was my first real attempt at pantsing a book because I had a beginning and I had an end, but once again, that middle was just a big question mark to me. And so I didn't want to wait to try and figure it out. And so I just thought, hey, this will be my experiment with pantsing. And it died at around 20,000 words. So with that in mind, what I would like to spend August doing is just taking the whole month to world build. I have a couple of questionnaires that I have found online that I'm going to use as sort of a framework to kind of do the crafting of this world. I've got some basic ideas in terms of like the kingdom and the magic system. So I've got some bare bones ideas, but I need just a little bit more, especially since it's going to be a little bit of an adventure and I need some things in this world to make it adventurous. And so anyway, August, I plan to spend just completely world building. I'm not going to be thinking about the plot. I'm not going to be thinking about characters. I'm not going to be thinking about drafting. My only goal for August is to really get comfortable with the world. Then in September, what I would like to do is then start thinking about the plot. As I said earlier, I have a beginning, like the first act essentially, and I have the climax-ish. Kind of. I have parts of the ending figured out. I know what the end point is going to be. And then I have a couple of those like keystone scenes that I think all writers have when they start a project in mind. And that's it. So I really do need to, once I have my world building in place, and I am hoping that that will also generate ideas for the plot, then I am going to start sitting down with like a notebook, which I like to do at the beginning of every project, and just start asking myself questions, and from there building what the actual plot will be and the kind of the general sequence of events. That's September. And then October, I would like to start the outline. In the past, I have done multiple drafts of the outline, but Seekers has been really humbling and instructive in that my first iterations aren't good. I am finding. I can't even imagine what the first iteration of the outline looked like. I haven't looked at it in a long time, but like I have deviated so far from that original, not really, but like in terms of the trouble spots, that middle 40%, I have iterated on it so many times since that first outline. And every time it has felt like the right configuration, and it has never been true. What I'm really hoping is that, first of all, that I learned from this experience and that I realize some faults that I have and that I can not make the same mistakes twice. I do believe that every you learn from every book that you write. And so I am only going to continue to grow and get better. The rough road I have been on with this Seekers plot has really kind of opened my eyes to how far I have yet to come when it comes to planning a book. That's October. I'm just going to work on an outline. That's all I'm going to do. I don't care how many times I have to go over it and how many times I have to tweak it. And what I would really like to do is think more deeply about how a book flows, because I think part of my problem with the original Seekers outline is that it was more of a series of scenes, which I guess is what all outlines are, but I wasn't really thinking about any of the connective tissue that would connect those scenes together. And once I got into the draft, I was like my outline would be like, okay, Arceli is going to her new job, but she has to stop at her house and pick up some clothes, and there she has a fight with her grandmother. And in the very next scene, like in the outline, they were there in the headquarters and she was getting a tour, but it's just like, how did she get there? That's kind of an important scene, especially since she's going to have so many questions. And so things like that, things where I'm just like, it's not just like, okay, logically, yes, the next most important thing that happens is that she sees this new world, but like on paper, her and the person who recruited her driving there and having a quick conversation might not necessarily sound interesting. It is important, and you can make it interesting. Anyway, all of that to say, like, while I am outlining daughters, I want to be more cognizant of that, and I hope that will help eliminate some of the false starts that I've had with the plot. That'll be my plan for October, and then November and December will be drafting, hopefully. Now, take this all with a hefty dose of salt, because it took me May, June, July, August, and most of September. So it took me like 4.5 months, almost 5 whole months to do that whole process that I just mentioned, world building, figuring out the plot, and outlining for Seekers. And again, we see how much of a cluster that has been. I will link the playlist in the cards if you want to go back to the beginning and watch all of that. But that being said, I wasn't quite as locked into the community at that point, and I didn't have a very established writing habit. I would go 2-3 weeks sometimes without writing. So maybe if I am in the habit of thinking about the writing or doing active writing every single day, then maybe that process will go faster, I hope. And that will be the end of the year, pretty much. I do anticipate at some point during those 4 months that my feedback will come back from my manuscript critique with Brielle and my critique partners. Again, please let me know if you're interested, please. Then 2027, we'll start looking at revisions for Seekers Draft 4, because I am under no illusions that this draft will end up being perfect, and this will be like the first real round of feedback that I'll be getting, and it'll be important to start planning the next stages of Seekers. But yeah, that's kind of my plan for the rest of the year. Finally getting this third draft done, and finally letting other people in on it, letting other people see it, receiving feedback, and kind of experiencing that stage of the process. When I was writing semi-professionally for Scribd, I would write a first draft of a manuscript, and then really it was just a very quick like copy edit. The editing process wasn't very robust. And so in that respect, this portion is kind of new ground for me to break. All of that to say, like, this is a big step in my writing journey. Even though I had planned the manuscript critique at the beginning of the year, it didn't really feel real. And I wonder if that was because I was already starting to feel burnt out and disconnected from writing. Now, for some reason, it just feels more real. It feels more like it's going to actually happen than it did at the beginning of January, even though I could not have known then that I would take 4 months off. Anyway, so that is kind of my writing plan for the end of the year. I know at the beginning of the year, I talked a little bit about maybe writing a short story a month. That is definitely on hold for now. I need to really focus on my big project and then what I plan to write next. Maybe short stories will be something I pick back up in the latter half of the year. I don't have any concrete plans for that, but it is kind of nice to have those in my back pocket if I ever need a palate cleanser. And that's everything for 2026, I hope. And I am looking forward to seeing how you guys push me, as you always do, to cross the finish line. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe, or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, leave me like a little bow emoji for my little notebook that says pretty things on it. Pretty ideas. And in my next video, I had every intention of writing this week while I was on my annual birthday staycation. And I found after the first couple of days, that was probably a mistake to say that I was. So it is going to be kind of a disjointed vlog. It's going to be more of a life thing and basically me figuring out how to be on camera again. So I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.